Hey everyone, welcome to today's session. I am Brendan O'Shaughnessy, the Chief Commercial Officer at ViSenze, the leading AI solutions provider for retailers, brands, and marketplaces. Now, during today's session, we're going to talk about how online retailers can increase their revenue with transformative retail AI solutions. We'll discuss some of the trends and observations that we see across the market and hopefully give you some tips and hints on how to adopt that for your success. And before we get started, let me remind you, if you have any questions, feel free to post your questions on the side chat box and our team will answer them as we go. Now, our guest today is Lexi Willetts, founder of Little Black Door. Lexi, you're very welcome to our session today.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Now, you've just taken up a role as a brand and digital director of Alicia J. Diamonds. Congratulations.
Yes, just when I thought I'd played all of my cards, someone offers me a role with diamonds and digital.
Sounds like a great combination. I'm sure you'll put it to good work. So, Lexi, we've got a few topics to cover today, and hopefully we'll get through within our schedule. But let's jump right in and start with social commerce. It's really become more than a trend. Gen Zs and more increasingly use it for inspiration and searching and finding products faster. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you see brands adopting good social strategies to deliver better engagement?
The social commerce piece is quite enormous, isn't it? And I think it really kind of depends what you are as a brand, what products and services you're selling, and what's the audience that you're trying to target as to whether you engage with it or choose not to immerse yourself in it. When we look at the kind of evolving social commerce piece, fashion, consumer electronics, decor, for sure, are looking likely to be the most kind of bought categories within that space on social media platforms. Yep. And there are certain audiences, I think, geographically as well, that are making huge use of social commerce as vehicles to buy products. Specifically China. I think 8 out of 10 users are buying within that social media space environment.
It's amazing.
Also Brazil, whereas curiously, still the US and the UK are less likely to engage with that space as a buying opportunity. And that, I think, still lends a little bit of nervousness. I think Accenture ran a report not that long ago, and of their respondents, 50% are anxious to buy within the social media environment because they're very worried about, is the product refundable? Actually, is this a genuine seller within that environment? Because they're very worried about scams. But I think that probably then gives an opportunity for brands to build social dynamics within their own brand.com e-store environments, really to make most of some of the social features that they're seeing online and the kind of expected social features that they're seeing in other places that they're spending a lot of time.
Yeah. So I think I guess it's that well-worn trait of copying your competitor in many ways and seeing how you can find what's working and adapt it. Within your own environment. It's interesting. One of our customers, Zalora, have been using, our visual AI services to link their Instagram images, tagged images, with products on Zalora.com for several years now, and it's really proven to be a great source of inspiration for their customers. It's interesting what you say around the trust aspect and how comfortable shoppers are today to shop within those, I guess, walled garden environments, right, that the social platforms create. But certainly, I think from an engagement point of view, from an inspiration point of view, there's no doubt it's working really, really well today. I guess the challenge there is for them to translate that into shopping behaviors. And equally for brand.coms, learning from how customers are using those platforms for inspiration and seeing how they can adopt to that. That's social as it stands today, right? It's Instagram, it's Pinterest, and so on. But what about the future? Recently, we've had a lot of noise and some activity around the metaverse, and a lot of thinking around how brands can maybe expect to play a role there in the future. We hear a lot about virtual stores. How do you see that aspect of I guess the future of social commerce evolving, as it relates to AR experiences and the metaverse, for want of a better term?
I think it's already evolving, and that's that is clear. You've already got brands engaging on this level. COVID has created this kind of hyper online shopping behavior. We were up to something like 99% of transactions were made online during COVID. And that may have fallen off slightly, but it's changed the behavior in people over a period of 18 months to 2 years.
Absolutely, it has.
Now, the curious thing about augmented reality is that it instills this kind of almost trust and validation piece online, which, you're taking this kind of gamified, very immersive technology that maybe you're seeing in other places as a user, but it allows you to instill a confidence within the sale. So, can I try it on? Can I see how it looks? Oh, will it fit me? It kind of almost helps to answer the questions and to provide a confidence within that purchase and sale. Gucci have been particularly brilliant at adopting this, using that AR experience to create try-ons of shoes. Alongside of that, you're seeing brands like Charlotte Tilbury, who just released their virtual store online. Now they suffered certainly in the beginning of lockdown to be able to engage with customers in a very personal way. Bear in mind, if their store environments lend to makeup artistry, so how to replicate that experience online. And they've clearly worked on that very hard to release their new latest store. That store is fabulous. It's immersive. You can actually shop with friends as well within that store environment.
Right.
You're bringing in this component of trying on suggestive items within the store, plus being able to have a friend to shop with you within that environment. So you're really kind of blending into the social piece. And I think that will only improve and will only become more common across those types of brands.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it could be the real evolution of social commerce in that it's truly social and not a social platform commerce. Really interesting. I think what you say there around luxury brands is very true. How do you replicate that boutique environment? That store environment, which is a big part of the brand and the customer experience. How do you replicate that online and do it effectively? So great to see and hear, brands exploring that. I think there's a lot more to come. So wonderful insights and clearly a lot happening already in the social commerce and the emerging AR space. I think it's still early, but it's going to be really interesting to see that evolution of how brands use social platforms or social behaviors that consumers are more used to over the coming years. Let's bring it back from the virtual world to the real world and chat about some more prosaic topics that our audience can learn from and maybe apply to their businesses today. Growth, we touched upon it. There's a lot of online traffic. The last 2 years has transformed our behaviors in retail. So in a crowded online world, getting discovered is one of the key priorities. How do retailers best address this?
Yeah, I think growth of traffic is probably umpteen strategies that you can employ here to kind of, how do you direct traffic to your sites, make the attractive force. But, there's also the technical mechanics to building optimization there.
Yeah.
Probably internal links are arguably one of the most neglected link building tactics, I think, in SEO marketing. And very plainly speaking, link building is the kind of practice of acquiring links from third-party websites to your website. In SEO, these are kind of called backlinks. And getting backlinks from very high-quality external sources gives you an authority to your site, which helps feed into your ranking within search engines. So, how are you going to do that? Maybe a lot easier for an existing site that's got a strong trading history, but if you're a new site, a new player coming to the market, how do you kind of improve your discoverability online and create this backlinking structure? Now, some of the easier ways to do that, it very often starts with creating incredible content. So there is something strong to refer back to, and so that other sites may link back to that content, whether that's visual or video. Using third parties to kind of guest blog about you so that they have already some existing credibility that you can kind of use and make use of within your own site. Also some social media promotion. I've seen some strategies about pursuing competitors' backlinks too. I've also seen some very dark behavior on this. I think not long ago as a brand, Alicia J was contacted by a third party who was representing a brand who almost threatened us that if we didn't have a backlink to them, that they fight. So there's very, very murky behavior that goes on here too. But it's trying to give yourself the potential to be discovered, and that really lends into this kind of authority piece to help with your ranking within just a basic research.
Yeah, it's interesting, and one of I think there's the discovery of getting people to your platform, and then when you get them there, how do you help them find those products, right, that they're looking for? How do you make that easy? So I guess it's as you say, it's the growth for traffic conundrum and objective, and then it's the growth for revenue once you've succeeded in the first part. It's interesting when we speak with customers and e-commerce platform providers. One of the things they always highlight is, the product data. Product data quality is a real issue, and it impacts their businesses when it's not addressed. And I guess, to your point around backlinks and how do you do that, another strategy there is to, update and augment your product data and then incorporate that data across your site, whether that's filters, a way to, really make those, that product data work for you, both from an SEO ranking point of view, but then importantly from product discoverability point of view when you get customers to your site. And it's a real struggle. Many brands have weak data, or they'll spend hours and struggle with manually generating consistent product tagging or product attributes, or they don't do it at all, and they suffer the consequences. I recall there was I think it was a Covio Qubit survey last year that found about 87% of shoppers say, they're faced with such an overwhelming amount of product choices, to some degree. And that's the challenge, when you get customers to your site and you make those investments to get those customers there, you still have to make it easy for customers to find those products, right? And I think that's where effective search, in addition to, improved search rankings, really does become critical. And that depends on retailers having good product data. And on top of that, I think when you get customers there, text search is still the prevailing activity for customers to find products, but we're seeing great adoption in markets like India for visual search, because in markets like that, it's so much easier for consumers to use visual product searches to find products than it is to use text search, given the range of languages and dialects across the market so wide. So yeah, lots of different ways to address that. We're getting through a lot here, so I want to keep moving. The next area, the next topic I wanted to touch upon is optimizing. All right, I think it's today, I guess personalization is such a hot topic, right? And I think we can all agree that personalizing a customer's online shopping experience is one of the keys to keeping them satisfied. Consumers may want help to find the products that they need, or they may value a more tailored experience. There was a McKinsey 2021 research paper which showed that 71% of consumers expect companies to deliver personalized interactions, and 76% get frustrated when that doesn't happen. So it's important to consumers. I know one of our partners, iBuyDirect, they generated a significant increase in average session value, 2.4% in average session value, 20% increase in click-through rates, and overall a 29x ROI. And it did that through delivering eyewear recommendations that were tailored to the shopper's interest, the kind of frame they were looking to buy. So, it definitely works. What are you seeing, Lexi? What's your thinking on this?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it kind of goes through all aspects of your buying journey or the purchase journey. I think as consumers, we are highly expecting of very personal UX now. So, gone are the days of generic language. So you really need to kind of tailor the feeling of the purchase that this is all about me. And that's probably because we've shifted from offline potential personal interactions in store and are trying to kind of replicate that within the online environment. So our expectations as we make use of online environments become greater and greater towards this personal behavior. I think curiously, when we were building out Little Black Door, it was super curious to watch the behaviors of friends within a shopping environment.
In what way?
And just a cursory view of interconnected wardrobes, if you like. So within our environments, we catch what users buy within accessories, and they house that within their digital wardrobe. Quite frequently, people who had or friends or family members would very often buy the same types of goods. They would very often buy the same colors, the same brands, very often the same pieces, and they would be replicated over and over within their friends' clusters. So this personalization topic is super interesting to watch, just how people's social interactions, whether with their friends or family, or even who they're watching within their social media environments, certain influences that they will watch, they will replicate, they will copy within their purchase behavior. There are some very definite patterns to kind of help lend to that hyper personalization approach that brands can plug into there.
Interesting. It's almost scary what you're saying, whether it's a conscious coupling or a subconscious coupling across our network. It's amazing that you're getting those insights, and terrific to see how brands could if they can capture those kind of insights, how they can put them to work for themselves. Really interesting. I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is you're really focused on cross-sell. How should retailers think about optimizing the cross-selling of products?
This is very often again down to the UX of how you're being offered. Again, if we're kind of playing to that personalization experience, gone are the days of language, I think, which is other shoppers bought this too. I don't specifically want to know what other people have bought. I want to know what I should be buying. So I think there's this kind of language brushing of how you deliver this. And I think probably the delivery of bundling should be kind of more personalized and probably made more gamified, so that it feels like a natural sales position rather than it being a very forced, aggressive, look what you could also have. I mean, let's be clear, what you're trying to do here is create this kind of clustering or bundling environment whereby customers will buy not just the one piece, but the entire outfit, so that you've got a chance to kind of increase sales around that one item. But I think that there are ways and means of how you can deliver that experience in quite a playful way. And maybe the kind of virtual store environment, could come into its own. That you've got, the potential virtual personal shopper who is kind of almost delivering and suggesting those pieces with you. And if you're shopping perhaps with friends in that virtual store environment, that you could ask your friend, what should I wear with this? And that suggestive behavior could be played into the way that you're presented these products.
Yeah.
So like an aggressive, oh, you can have this, you can have this. Because I think certainly I think in developed marketing countries, we are very attuned to being sold to.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the palates of the UK and the US don't particularly like to be aggressively oversold to.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I think you can tackle this a lot with presentation, but also there's a big data play on this. There's the one piece here is presentation, but what I'm actually being presented with, what types of products are suited to me, as long, in connection with the piece that, the primary piece that's attracted me to that sale. What else can I be offered? And there is a huge data possibility there to kind of really understand me and my preferences, to be able to offer up the right products to be bundled up with my primary product.
That's a really interesting suggestion. The gamification of recommendations. I love it. I was at Shop Talk US in Las Vegas recently, and that idea arose there too. Maybe too much time spent on the gaming halls, but I think you're right. I think there's the data is important, but I think technology has a real role to play here as well. I know when we talk with customers, you touched upon that. From a cross-sell point of view, increasing the basket size, right? So if I'm looking for a product, what associated products might be presented to me in a way that's engaging and appropriate, contextually correct. And, I know, you talk about the UK, we've got quite a few customers in the UK who use our Shop to Look recommendations engine to do that very well and very effectively. And one of the key reasons they use it is because from a technology point of view, you're able to incorporate things like inventory availability. All right. Whereas when these kind of capabilities have been created by, curated manually, one of the challenges there is the simple updating of it, right? Making sure that what's being recommended from a product outfit to increase the purchase likelihood is in stock. You're not giving customers a negative experience when trying to give them a more engaging experience and increase your basket size. So lots certainly data is key to it, and how you use that data and how you incorporate, I think, the right technology around it is critical. Now, just keeping on data, let's look at analysis. Obviously retailers are getting smarter about using data right around the world to better understand their businesses and their consumers, and whether it's price comparison or understanding your catalog better or deriving insights that can help you engage the right consumers. Data is simply huge, but it's a challenge. It's not an easy problem to solve. It's not an easy tactic to get right or strategy to get right. What advice do you have for our audience on how to approach this challenge?
One of the kind of fundamentals of kind of this data gathering exercise to create quite a personalized approach to customers is that it's reflective of customers' habits, but it's also enough to be able to predict what they might do in the future. So it's important there's enough account for the kind of statistical deviations and variations within that data set. When you look at companies like Stitch Fix, you see their kind of real attention to detail to try and understand who the customer are. And arguably their onboarding process for each customer is quite extensive, but obviously they work on a subscription model, which is designing personalized approach to buying key wardrobe pieces. But they will, it's quite a laborious data entry exercise to understand your preferences in the first instance. But actually it doesn't stop there. Or be quite granular. They then continue to take this dynamic approach to understanding who their customers are. And very often, customers may indicate that they are X, but actually by returning X all the time, they are not X and they're possibly Y. They constantly record what customers are keeping, what customers are returning, so that you have this kind of dynamic, ongoing data piece around that customer. And then you can obviously kind of start to really build out a more fuller, richer understanding of the client along that journey. You're probably layering on other data sets. Maybe you're kind of capturing what they're looking at online, and really feeding that into a whole blending pot to give you a better understanding of the clients in totality, as well as just what they tell you.
Interesting. And indeed, I think, when we think about an analysis, it's not even always directly about a consumer, right? It can be about other parts of the business. I know we recently concluded a really interesting pilot with a major global retailer where we were analyzing trends using a new product clustering algorithm that our team developed. And it really excited them and sparked a lot of ideas about how you could use such capabilities to improve different aspects of their business. So it's interesting. The different areas we're seeing more and more businesses, more and more retailers look for innovative ways to take the data they have and really put it to work. We've been working with one of our major customers to combine their sales data, their product forecast data, and other data, and applying our AI solutions to it to develop an integrated assortment planning module. So nothing to do with nothing to do with consumers, very much around the behind the scenes operational processes that every retailer needs to go through. But the plan here is to do away with the many spreadsheets that buyers and planners use, and deliver a more sophisticated capability that can deliver better outcomes. And our tests are showing great results against their benchmark performance, resulting in greater profitability with less expenditure and a lower level of inventory. So, fantastic potential for, I guess, improving sustainability as well as profits. So according to the Baynard Institute, almost 70% of online shopping carts are abandoned. Think about that. Every 100 potential customers, 70 of them will leave without purchasing something that they're clearly interested in. Now, we associate retargeting typically with email campaigns. Is that the future, or is there a better way to re-engage?
I think this probably comes down to the question of who is the audience, who is your customer base, and what do they do, and what's their main kind of channels of communication. I think when you look towards late millennials, Gen Zs, maybe Generation Alpha, there is a skepticism that emails are their main communication tool of choice, albeit that it's quite a neutral ground. It might belong to them as a personal method of communication, but it feels like it's okay to be able to communicate with people in that environment. Gen Zs in particular are quite skilled in the arts of setting spam filters, much more so. So if you are retargeting in that email environment, there is a high chance that your email will be lost. Curiously, I think the direct-to-consumer brands are much happier to communicate with text message environments. So if I think of brands like Nadim Marabi, who've grown exponentially over the last 2 years, they will retarget in a number of ways. They will retarget on email. They will retarget in text message. And maybe that, for some users, depending on, your attitude to sliding in DMs, that's comfortable. Others might not perceive that as comfortable. I see other direct consumer brands also, working within your social media environments as well. So sending you social media messages, or, very happy to communicate with you in WhatsApp as well.
Yeah.
I think, to try and follow up to convert that interest in the sale is not necessarily just ring-fenced to the email environment. And there's, platforms like Klaviyo are designed to help you kind of communicate within email and SMS. I guess, that retargeting piece, again, depends on how you're offering your sales journey. You have platforms like Net-a-Porter, Outnet, ASOS, for instance. They've all designed their own apps in order to be able to kind of purchase a product. In the event that you filled your basket and left it, they can obviously use notifications to remind you that that's still there as well. So I think it's very much of how you organize your kind of online self and your online purchase. But be very mindful that perhaps email is a dying art. So what can I do to do that? Big budgets, perhaps more retargeting within social media environments. We've all had the experience of browsing something online. Facebook Pixel picks that up, and then within seconds, it's no coincidence within the next hour I've just seen that same item in my feed. But maybe that is far more powerful than just retargeting me in my email environment.
Very interesting. I think you touch upon apps there, and the power that obviously gives brands to engage directly. I think it's wonderful. It's a challenge of getting those apps adopted. Is comes back to that driving traffic and driving the right kind of traffic. But yeah, I love the way Adidas bring it to you, bring it to me function in store. Is a great example of using that app as one, delivering a fantastic customer experience at the right point in time, but also being able to capture those points of interest, those products of interest, when I'm in a retail store, and being able to use that to deliver me better retargeted recommendations and products. So again, building up that, it comes back to personalization, recommendations, comes back to engagement. So lots of things being joined up when we think about that. Lexi, we're out of time. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I loved hearing your insights. I look forward to catching up with you next time I'm in London. But to our audience, thank you very much for attending the session. I hope you enjoyed the sharing, and we look forward to meeting you again in the next webinar. Lexi, many thanks.
Thank you.